if I'm going to live out my purpose with confidence, I have to be able to identify, how do I do me? All right, y'all, welcome back to Practice, the podcast where we fuse research and culture to help you develop the mindsets, the habits, the skills that you need in order to live out your purpose with confidence. I'm your coach, Dr. Rees. And if you are watching this, then you can see that I'm in my car and I'm driving. So this is my first car cast. And the reason why I decided to do car cast is because right now I am on the road a whole lot more than I've been in a really long time. And it is my mission to stay consistent with delivering, one, with creating, and two, with being able to create and get these podcasts out and information out, because this is something that everything that I do, I love, and it gives me life, but it fills me in different ways, in different pockets, and being able to speak and teach and talk in a different manner and create a show that I feel like adds values to the masses of people versus the people that I'm just in front of is something that's really valuable to me. And so what I've done is, because I'm driving right now, to give you a little bit of detail into my life, I've started to serve at a prison. I'm serving actually at two prisons, and one of them is about a 2-hour drive both ways. And I'm making that drive both ways in a day. And I was like, there's no way, like, it doesn't make sense. I don't have a driver. I'm the one doing it. And there's no way that I can sit in a car for 4 hours and not get anything done. So I got my camera. It's posted up here on my car. And if anybody's listening, then you still have the same listening experience, because it's me talking and I'm still looking at the road. And if you're watching, then you get to get a different view. So my hope is that you are still able to get, not even my hope, you are going to get top-notch information. This might even be a better experience, and I might only do car casts. Who knows? Anyways, I just wanted to give some context for those who are watching and trying to figure out, why am I in my car doing this? It's because I want to make sure that I can still do all the things that I committed to. I can still be active. I can still be present. And I can do the things that I need to do and be consistent, ultimately. So what we're talking about today is, I just finished a marathon. I just finished my first whole half marathon. Yes, emphasis on whole half, because half sounds like you didn't really do a lot. And I did a whole lot. Everybody who did it did a whole lot. And I like to put whole in front of it because I did the whole thing. And there was an option at some point to where I had the option not to do the whole thing. And I'll talk about that in a second. But from the very first day that I decided to do it, in my mind, I called it a whole half, because I didn't want to take the it's just a half. Like, no. This is still a really big deal. So for those who don't know, Zakora and I and our little sis Vic signed up to do the Nike After Dark run in LA. It took place over the weekend of June 7th in LA. So Nike partnered with Doechii. I don't know if they partnered with Doechii or Doechii partnered with them. Either way, Doechii, the artist, the rapper, artist, she's just an artist across the board, partnered with her. And so I had went on Threads one day, and early in the morning, and I usually don't go on social media that early, but I was like, man, I'm up, I'm early, I have some space. So I went on Threads, and this one chick that I follow posted about, oh, I'm running Nike something, seeing Doechii, and I was like, what? And to know me is to know that I'm once a hooper, always a hooper. So I'm a hooper, used to hoop, played pro, all that stuff, love basketball, coached. But since being pulled away from the game and going through a lot of life stuff, just that competitive space in my life has kind of had a void. And I've never wanted to run a marathon. I've never wanted to run a half marathon. Like, they were not on my bucket list, nothing I desired to do. What was on my bucket list was a 5K. And I was like, that's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? It still is a big deal. So I was like, that's a big deal. Running a 5K is major. I'm in I'll do that at some point. But I never set a date. I never looked for one. I never trained for one. It just was kind of on there, and I would run it at some point in life, was my thought. So when I found out that she was doing this, I looked at the link and I was like, oh my gosh, it's put on by Nike. Obviously I love Nike. It's Doechii. There's a Doechii concert at the end. I love Doechii. This is going to be fire. And it's in LA. I get to travel. I signed up right then and there. And the season of my life that I've been in is been trying to really cultivate and give that athlete in me that much more space, and to help me just my body get in more of a healthier, fit space. And I was like, well, what better way than a marathon? And we literally had 12 weeks to train. That was it. Signed up right then and there. Called Zakora. She came downstairs, and I was like, I signed up for a marathon. You should do it too. Sent her the information, and she was like, and then she signed up. So there you go. We both ended up signing up for marathons, and training started. So this episode, what I'm going to talk about is like the 5 things I learned from the entire half marathon experience, but I wanted to give some context as into how I got into it in the first place. And so the first thing that I want to say was it was hard. Like, it was hard. Training for the marathon was hard, and the running itself wasn't hard. That's the thing. Training for the marathon was hard, but the running itself wasn't hard. It was the scheduling. It was everything around it that was maybe like it was hard and inconvenient. That's probably the best way to say it. Like the half marathon was hard and inconvenient. And it was inconvenient because I'm a slow runner. And because I'm a slow runner with an older, kind of beat up, post-pro life body, it takes me a lot. And your girl has so much more weight on it. Like, my body just takes a longer time to be able to do certain things. And so warming up takes a good 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? I got to put my Normatec boots on. There's so many different things that I have to do. And so by the time I warm up and then I get to the run and then I cool down, that just takes up a lot of time. And right now in my life, as you can see, I'm doing a car cast. I don't have that much time. And so when I say it was inconvenient, it was really hard to find times to schedule in order to get our long runs in. 1 mile, okay, that's cool because it's only 1 mile. 2 miles is even easier, but 3, it's from 3+ is when it got harder. Again, because I'm a slow runner, my mile times are longer. So somebody who has like a 7-minute mile, 7 to 8 to even 10-minute mile, like, you can knock out 3 miles in 30 minutes. I'm doing 2 miles in 30 minutes, right? So it has, less time in that for me. And this wasn't something that I realized until I got into it. So in learning this, like, I knew my mile time was going to be slow, and I was okay with that. And I'm going to get to that in a second about my pace. But back in, what is this? This was in June that we ran it. We started training in March, and I hadn't ran since September before. So it just was a thought of like, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's get after it. And my first miles was probably close to 16 minutes. Like, I was in pain. Like, my knees are hurting, my joints are hurting, all that kind of stuff. And the other part to it being hard and inconvenient was when we started running longer miles, it took up more time, which meant our son, had to come with us. And an 8-year-old, and he was 8 at the time. He had just turned 8. An 8-year-old is not trying to be out running a bunch of miles. So we had to get creative as parents in figuring out, okay, what are ways that we can get him to be involved in this without it feeling like a big strain on him and his body. One of the things was the first time he came, he rode his bike. When we ran our first 5 miles, that joint was a feat. And when I think back to when we ran our first 5, was like, that's the most I ever ran in my life. And it felt, really, really good to get that done. But he ran his bike and he didn't last the whole 5. Thank God Uncle Just was with us, and he was able to go back to the house with Uncle Just because he didn't make it. He was mad. So that's something I feel like I've never really heard a lot of people talk about and share, is how hard it is for parents, let alone like single parents or parents who don't have a village and all that, to be able to train for something like this. Like, what are you doing with your kid? Like, what are you doing with the kids while you are training for this marathon? And you can't run in the middle of the day. Why? Because you have a job. So this is what I mean by it being inconvenient, is just that time frame. And so Once we started running longer and more frequently, he went from his bike to one time he rode his, we ended up getting an electric scooter. But the unfortunate thing about the electric scooter is the most it went was 5 miles at a time. So again, to train for a half marathon, you have to build up to run 5 miles, 6 miles, 7 miles, 8, 9, 10, right? So on and so forth. And so when he and I went on our 10-mile run, he took his bike. Now, I've never rode a bike for 10 miles, and I can imagine how much that hurt. So by the time we got to mile 4.5, bruh was hot. He was like, can we turn around? And I was like, yes, we could turn around in 0.5, but we still have that much more to go. So again, that was the inconvenience. Like, it became a family experience, but it was really like kind of inconvenient because as we're running and training, it's now like I couldn't just run in my training. I had to also be a parent, and sometimes he would want to have a convo, and I'm like, I'm trying to breathe, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm running, he's trying to talk, and then managing his frustration and all of that. And so it was tough to do because of just the landscape of our family. But I'm glad we navigated it and obviously didn't finish it. But those are just things that I've never really heard a lot of people talk about surrounding this, of just the hardness of it. So that's the first piece. It was inconvenient and it was hard, but it allowed me to increase my thought process on, like, we do hard things, we endure hard things, like, we're going to stick to our commitments. And being able to model that for him with Zakor and I was amazing, because we were able to like show him, like, we don't want to run today, we're going to run. And honestly, there were times where it was like we didn't have time and space, because if we go run at a certain time, it's going to take us too long, and now we're all out and it impacts the rest of our life, because maybe we had a lacrosse game or we had other things to do, because he had lacrosse games, and then we had this and we had that. And it was like, it's been a minute since I surrounded my life around a specific activity like this, like in training. But when I was training for hoop, it was just me. I didn't have a family. So that's the first part. The second part, and it kind of leads into this, is training for the thing is different than doing the thing that you're training for. So training for the thing and doing the thing are two different things. Training for the thing, doing the thing, two different things. And the reason why I say that is I wanted to not run 13 miles until I did the marathon. And the reason why I didn't want to run 13 miles until I ran the marathon was because in my mind, I'm like, well, if I ran 13, I'm like, what do I need to go to LA to run 13 for? So by the time I actually ran the 13 miles, the first time I did it was at the marathon. Prior to that, I'd only ran 10. And there's a big difference between 10 and 13. For somebody like myself, that's an extra 45 minutes because my mile average pace is 16 minutes, right? 15 to 16 minutes. So training for the thing, your thought process is a little bit different. Like the way you're coming into it, you're thinking about, you're thinking about how you're doing what you're doing. Your setup is a little bit different. The timing of when you're doing it is different. And I didn't know necessarily how to train. And Nike has a training running plan, which is cool. And in that it laid out, all the different days you run up to 5 days a week. But for me, sorry, I just passed a porta potty truck and that joint stuck. Sorry, my mouth was open clearly because I'm talking, but that caught me off guard. So in training, to again give you some insight on where I'm at, I want to be able to shape my body in a more muscular, strong, powerful stance. And my training had to shift from when I was lifting really heavy weights, lower body, and trying to build that way, to then focusing on running. And so when I say training for the thing and doing the thing are two different things, the satisfaction became a little bit different. But my growth came in the training. So like your growth comes in the training, your endurance comes in the training, your belief in yourself to execute comes in the training. But when I was doing the thing, like the actual running the 13 miles, that's when I was like, that gave me more satisfaction in belief. And so we know that confidence comes through friction and challenge. And the confidence that I had to execute the 13 miles by the time I got to that point was developed in training for the thing. So when I was running the marathon, this thought process came up of like, I'm doing the thing. I'm doing the thing that I've been training for. And so I throw that back to you to think about what are the things that you're training for, right? It may not be a marathon, a whole half marathon, or anything physical. Like you might be training to grow a new skill. Like what area in your life are you seeking to grow and gain and increase your confidence? For me, it was my endurance. And my endurance, my ability to be a competitor, my ability to show up, like all these things, my ability to commit, my ability to do hard things. Like that was my focus in this season was I want to be able to commit to doing the hard, right? And training for it. And when I say, let me take a step backwards, right? So we know that, again, confidence is developed through challenge and friction. I want to encourage you in this moment to uncover something in your life that you need to increase your challenge. Like pick an area, find something that you're like, I need a little bit more challenge here. I need to prove to myself that I can do hard things, because the person that I became in this process is similar to the person I became the growth that I experienced during this process is similar to the growth that I experienced during getting my doctorate, because the process was long. Obviously 12 weeks versus years is different, but anything that you're striving to achieve and get after in life, I believe the transformation happens in the process of in pursuit of getting that. Transformation happens in the process in pursuit of getting to that next destination, getting to whatever it is that you're trying to be. In this instance, right, it was to a marathon and running 13 miles. In my doctorate, it was, to complete my full dissertation written, to defend my dissertation. And by the time I got to the graduation, it was like, man, I already done, everything. But it's who you become in the process. And now the competitor in me is seeking things that challenge me so they can change me. So that is my encouragement and challenge to you, is find things that will challenge you so they can change you. And to know me is to know I'm addicted to getting better in growth. And that is probably the single most important thing that I think was a reminder that I pulled out of this marathon experience, was challenging things change you. And I need challenging things for me to endure, for me to commit to, so I can be transformed and changed and I can continue to evolve. And I think that's really what a lot of life is about, is to evolve. Because when you get to the thing, you have the confidence to know that you can do it because you've been doing it. You may not have, like I said, I didn't do the thing all the way, but I proved to myself that I have the ability to do it. And so really quick, Nike had sprung they'd shifted the times. Originally when we signed up, we had put, how long it was going to take us, which is like the maximum amount of time. Because again, I'm a slow runner. And so we had thought, okay, it starts at this time. The concert I assumed is going to start at this time. And because of that, then that means that we will be able to, get there, execute, that kind of deal. And see the concert, get there, run it, see the concert. Because I've never ran a marathon, I don't know anything about the process. I have no idea how that there's like corrals, and then it's like, well, it makes sense now in hindsight, but I never thought about it because I've never experienced it. So anyways, Nike had switched some things up to where basically they said, if you want to see Doechii, you're going to have to run, and you're a slow runner, then you're probably going to have to run this nine miles. So they gave a 9 mile option. So after training for, 10, 11 weeks, we come to find out that, man, if you want to see her, then you have to run the shorter piece. So there was kind of like, man, that sucks. And again, I'm a concert lover. One of the main draws to going was because it was going to end with the Doechii concert. Like, that was a big draw. And all the way up until like mile 1, I thought that I was going to do the 9 miles because I wanted to see Doechii, and I just knew I wouldn't be back in time. And so after running and being in it, I was like, you know what? Doechii's going to go on tour. I could see Doechii at some point, and I came here to do a thing. I've been training for this thing. I have a goal. I want to meet it. And I want to see if I can run these 13 miles. I want to knock it out no matter how long it takes me. If I see her, I see her. If I miss it, I miss it. And so after mile 1 in, and we had started, and I had left, Zachora and I had separated at one point. And she had thought that I was still running the 9 miles, and she had committed to running 9. And so I was gone. I was like, I'm doing it. I'm doing the best that I can to finish this 13 miles. And long story short, I missed Doechii. But even people that finished early, like 2:40 something, they still missed her. Or maybe they saw like one song or something like that. So she was only up there for 30 minutes. So I'm glad that I didn't cut my goal short. Like, I didn't miss my own mark trying to see her, because part of the thought process for me was Doechii is already living her dream. Doechii is already achieving goals. Like, her doing this is a part of her thing, and me putting mine to the side to go see somebody else do theirs, I'm not doing that. And so I say that, one, for story, for insight, but to also maybe challenge you of where are some areas in your life that you feel like you may be cutting yourself short, or making sacrifices in your life to achieve the things that you want to achieve for somebody else who's already doing and living the thing and doing the thing that they want to do. And so just to challenge you on that piece. And again, this is coming from a big challenging space because I went through a challenging thing that challenged me and it changed me. So again, while I'm running, and I haven't ran 13 miles yet, but I'm doing the running because the running is the thing. I was like, I'm doing the thing. I'm doing the thing that I've been training for. I'm doing it. And my mission was to not stop as much as possible, not stop. Like, I didn't know if I'd have to go to the bathroom. I didn't know if I'd get cramps because I've never been in the competitive stance of this thing before. I've been doing running, but I hadn't been in the race before. So my mission was to not stop. And thank God I didn't get any cramps anywhere. When training for my 9 and 10, I had some really bad cramps. I had to go to the bathroom, like all types of stuff. But in my 10, I didn't stop. I just got some really bad cramps I had to run through. And so in this, though, I didn't end up going to the bathroom. I didn't get any cramps, anything like that didn't happen. And I was so grateful for that. And so I was able to keep running. Sometimes I was running real, real slow that somebody might have thought, is she running or is she walking? I was running. You know what I'm saying? I was walking, smocking. I don't know. I'm stopped now. So that's why I'm able to look directly at the camera. But that leads me to my next thing. Is have peace with your pace. You got to have peace with your pace. Got to have peace with your pace. And I'll tell you why. My running pace was the most humbling and humiliating and humility-based thing of this entire experience. The reason why I say humbling is not, again, to know the thought process and frameworks of philosophies of you-ish and me in practice. I don't see humbling in the same way that other people do. I don't see it as humbling. I'm like, oh, I did this thing and I didn't do it well, and so I got humbled, so I got put down. No, I don't see humbling in that light. I see humbling as in humility as something that keeps you grounded, because humility comes from the thought of lowness, and it kept me grounded and it kept me centered because of the difficulty and because of how I had to focus. Humility keeps me focused on the main thing. And the main thing was to do the thing. right? The main thing was to be able to run. The main thing was to be able to continuously move my body. The main thing was to be able to persevere. The main thing was to be able to stay committed to something that didn't feel good. All those things were the main things. Now, if I would have let it's the Dutch Bros. Didn't know that. If I would have let the embarrassment, right, when I talk about humiliating, it was humiliating to my ego. My ego was bruised because how fast I do not run. And that's the thing, is like, I had to stay focused. So I had to stay humble. I had to stay low. I had to stay rooted in what is the main thing? What am I trying to achieve? Why am I doing this? But it was humiliating to my ego because of how slow I ran and how big my body is right now and how hard it was for me to be able to go faster. And, do I think I could have, if I would have been able to run more and get in more times and that kind of, I think I could have knocked a little bit more time off of my time over that 12 weeks. But I didn't. And so I have to make peace with the fact that I have a slower pace. So when I say make peace with your pace, I'm saying that I want you to remain humble in staying focused on whatever your thing is. Like, your pace is not going to be the same as others. And and it's what sucks is, especially like on TikTok, because that's where, right, a lot of society hangs out and a lot of people become thought leaders and experts and all this kind of stuff and create communities and stuff, which I think is cool. So there's a running community on TikTok and there's a slow runners community on TikTok, which I found inviting and found solace in and was like, that's legit. There's a slow runners community. But then, to be completely transparent and honest with you all, the professional athlete in me does not like that I am a part of the slow runners community. Why? I'm not supposed to be a slow runner, right? So this is where I had to stay rooted and grounded in what am I doing and where am I at and how do I stay consistent? How do I not just say, you know what, F it, I'm not doing this out of shame and embarrassment, or force myself and my body to do something that it risk injury, right? Like, that's not wise either. And so, in the slow runners community, I'm still slower than some of the slow runners, which is really funny. When I look at some of these folks, like, they didn't start running they weren't athletes. They weren't like, there are people who were like, I want to start running and just started running. And some of these folks too, this is where comparison can get you caught up. And some of these folks have ran multiple marathons. I'm talking 10 plus. So they've been running for 2 years. And running is a different sport than lifting and lifting heavy and playing basketball and like all of that. And so the humility piece, again, in the piece of making peace with your pace, is comparison. Yes, people say is the thief of joy, but comparison can also be, it can add value to your process. And being able to see that helps me put things in perspective for other people, but also pushes me to have peace in my pace. Now, I don't feel the desire or have the desire to run 10 marathons. Nope, not at all. Don't care. I'm actually right now about to start training for a high rocks, which is a completely different vibe in what I want to see out of my body, and what I want to see my body do is different than being a long distance runner. And I say make peace with your pace when it comes to different areas in your life, because you are going to not be as fast as somebody else. You're not going to achieve something as soon as somebody else did. It's going to be slower. But if you're caught up in only shaming what you do, how you do, and why you do it, and all that kind of stuff compared to somebody else's, it's going to eventually become so heavy. The shame you carry from negative, destructive comparison can become so heavy that it weighs you down and keeps you from being able to move forward and progressing. And I had to make peace really early on with how fast am I able to do this? What are my specific goals? I don't want to stop. Okay, I just want to be able to run without stopping. And I noticed that some of the folks, they stop. And They stop for a second and then they run. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's a method. But if you get caught up comparing yourself to somebody else and you have no idea what they may be going through, and your battles and challenges and the way that you guys do things are different, and you don't even know, you could force yourself to be doing something according to something that's opposite or not in alignment with how and what your goals are. I hope that makes sense in the way that I said that. And so that was the thing, right? Like, make peace with your pace. Again, not just in athletic stances, but in everywhere in life. As an entrepreneur, like, you have to make peace with your pace of how you are building, in relationships, in every single thing. I think that this thought process can come in. And peace doesn't mean soft. Peace means I'm going to stay rooted. And being humble is the hardest thing that you can do, because you're having a uncomfortable conversation with your ego about why you're not going to get caught up in all the BS, why you're not going to get caught up in the destructive comparison loop, and you're going to make peace with what your reality is. And this marathon and running at my pace gave me another layer of make peace with the pace that you're going in your life. Don't try to speed up to stay up with somebody else, because eventually that you could hurt yourself trying to keep up with somebody else, right? And you also don't have to slow and dumb yourself down for others, either. And so I just think that this is a solid life lesson that the marathon taught me as I was training for it. And the next thing, though, leads me into something that I thought was super fire. And so as I'm running the marathon, they had pacers. And again, first time running anything, so I didn't know, what that meant. But there were two women who were running, and they had paddles that said the timing of what time they were going to be finished at. And this to me was one of my favorite things that I pulled out from the experience, was because they had the pacers, that let me know if I stick with them, I will be able to finish at or around or before, right at or around this time frame. And I thought that it was so fire, because they just became somebody, like, all I have to do is I have to see them. I just need to be able to keep them in eyesight, or I need to be beside them, or they're going to be behind me. And so what this taught me was so much more about leadership. And I've always been somebody who talks about leadership, but also followership, because I don't feel like we talk about following enough. And what does it look like to follow like a leader? And being somebody who was following pacers, there were times where I wasn't just following them. Like, there were times I was in front of them. There were times I was beside them. And then there were times that I was behind them. And I thought that that was a beautiful illustration of what leadership and followership and relationship is like. Because if I'm a mentor, there are things that my mentees will know that I don't know. There are things that I want them to teach me. There are times where they might speed up, and then eventually, I'm going to speed up, and we're going to go about this different ways. Because there were times, again, that they walked. And now that I'm thinking about this, I'm like, should I have stopped and walked? But no, because that's not how I wanted to run my race. So again, when I'm telling you to have peace with your pace, you have to identify, how do you want to run your race? Make peace with your pace, but identify, how do you want to run your race? And when I mean race, I mean your life. How do you want to run your life? And being able to say, this is how I want to run my life. This is how I want to lead my life. This is what I want to do with my life. These are the values and morals. These are the things that are in alignment with me and my purpose. These are the things that I feel encouraged by. These are the things that I feel led by. These are my boundaries. These are my non-negotiables. Like, these are it. And when you have that set out, you're going to have peace with the pace of what is going on around you. You're not going to feel forced. You're not going to feel rushed. You're not going to feel hurried. You're not going to feel like you have to sprint or catch up or any of those things, because you've identified, how do you want to run your race? They were okay with walking. I wasn't. I didn't want to walk unless I absolutely felt like I needed to. And I think that those are things, that goes back to having non-negotiables in your life, having boundaries in your life for how do you do you. This all goes back to, how do you do you? If I'm going to live out my purpose with confidence, I have to be able to identify, how do I do me? Yes, there are going to be people that I can compare myself to be able to gain information from and say, okay, I see how they're doing that. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe, okay. And then you can take and mix and see and compare and all of that. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to make peace with, how are you going to live your life? You have to be able to make peace with your pace and identify how you're going to run your race. So the pacers for me, again, was a beautiful illustration of leadership and followership in relationship that I'm like, I love that. I love what they showed, because it also helped keep me in pace. Now, after mile 7, I lost them. They lost me. I couldn't see them. Everything slowed down for me. My hips was gone. My knees was gone. And I was like, oh, I just got to finish. So I ended up finishing 15 minutes after them. But for a really long time, for a few miles, we were in the same spot. And that made me happy. But to think about it, though, again, if somebody is being a pacer in a race, that means they've done this before. Right? That wasn't their first time doing it. And again, with leadership and mentorship, like, you want folks who have done what you're trying to do. Like, you want folks who have been where you're trying to go. And they knew that they could keep that pace because they've ran this race before. So I love it. I think it's a beautiful illustration, and something that I will forever keep with me and will embed into my teachings now. And so the last thing that I have to share with you, and I'm literally pulling up to my location, so this works from a time stance, is I really enjoyed the people who were cheering along the sides. Like, I've seen it in movies. They have the tables and they have the cups. They got the Gatorade cups. They got their water cups. They got all that kind of stuff set up to give you those. They got the bathrooms. But there were people along the race lines with signs cheering you on, saying, you got this, you can do this. And they had signs. My favorite sign was one that said, chafing builds character. Best sign. There was even one that said, run if you're gay. I was like, well, running. I'm running and I'm chafing, right? I'm gay and I'm chafing. Like, I just thought it was funny. But there were families, there were people with chairs, there were loved ones where people would run off and they'd give their loved ones a hug and a kiss, and they'd give them water and they do all these things. And I just was like, man, this is so fire. And obviously we were out of town. And so if we were in town, my dad would 100% be there. My uncle, like our family, like they would have been there. Our village would have been there. But we were out of town. So our village became other people that were there, right? And I think it's so beautiful when people who identify with your struggle, whether they're actually in the race with you or they're watching you, or they watch somebody else like you go through what you're going through. And people cheer different when they know your pain. People cheer for you different when they identify with your pain. People cheer for you different when they're empathetic, because they either they get it or they see somebody they love go through what you're going through. And it was amazing to be on the receiving side of that. And y'all know me, I was out there encouraging and cheering other people on. Like, yo, okay, you got this. We're doing this. So much to where I'm running, and again, at my slow pace, enjoying what I'm doing. I'm doing my thing. And all of a sudden, there's a woman that I connected with. And again, we're running. So our connection is just kind of, hey, this is how much time, that kind of thing. And at one point, I end up losing her. Like, we just, we separate naturally. Like, we didn't come together. We separated naturally. And I end up seeing her again in my last mile. So we ended up naturally running our last mile together. And in running our last mile together, it ended up being super dope because we just did it. Like, we didn't say, hey, let's run this together. We just started running in a way that we were running together. And you can tell, and she was another like kind of mass presenting woman. So it was like, okay, cool. This is dope. Like, we gonna finish this joint out. And I say that to say, cause There are going to be people in your life who follow you, who you follow, you don't always stay up with, but just the energy is matched of like, we're going to do this. We're going to hold each other accountable. We're going to check in on each other. And so I loved the communal aspect of the marathon in that way. I have no idea what that woman's name is. I will probably never see her again. I kind of barely know what she looks like. But she was a taller, older Hispanic woman who had on a, baseball hat and, kind of gave mass vibes. So I was like, cool, we rocking. Let's do this. So we became each other's accountability for the last mile, and we're running together. And then after we crossed the finish line, I have a video, and I said, what's up? I said, great job to her, way to finish out, whatever. And then after I cross, a couple minutes later, another woman comes up to me and she goes, man, great job. I was trying to keep up with you. And I was like, and in my mind, again, you never know whose pacer you are. So when I say you never know whose pace you are, somebody's always watching. Somebody is in when you're leading right and you're doing what you want to do and you're staying focused on your course and you're staying honed in, you're staying doubled down, and you're staying humble in your pursuit. Like, imagine if I would have just allowed myself to drown in the sorrow and shame of being a slow runner. That would have prevented me from being able to run, to just stay focused, to stay tuned in, to stay locked in, to stay encouraged, to stay motivated, to do all those different things and run with the energy that I did. It never dawned on me that I was somebody else's pacer. But again, I don't know what's going on behind me. I'm just focusing on what's in front of me and what's beside me. So when this woman was like, man, shout out to you. I just was trying to keep up with you. I'm like, that's what's up. And not for me, but for me and for you to know, keep running your race. Whatever your race is, keep running, because you are being a leader. You are being a model. You are being a mentor. You are encouraging somebody. And we talk about this all the time, is resilience and self-efficacy have an aspect of vicarious experience to it. And when somebody else sees you persevere, even without you saying anything, they're going to know that's what you're supposed to do. Somebody else's self-efficacy will grow and develop because they see you persevering. Somebody else will feel like, okay, I got to move. Because I want to stick up with that person. And it may not be side by side. We never ran side by side. I didn't even feel her around me. You may be moving in life and doing your thing and persevering and progressing and all these different things. And somebody else is behind you, watching you do this. And by you doing that, they're telling themselves, I can do it. Just stay up with them. Just keep eyes on them. Just see how they're moving. Just see how, and man, I'm getting goosebumps.